Obviously, the further out you get, the longer the response time. When we use Woonsocket, they're about anywhere between 8 and 9 minute responses. And now this is to get a rescue vehicle on the scene. Blackstone is right around the 5 or 6 minute mark. Now when we get further out and we're using places like Smithfield and Oakland Mapleville and Lincoln, we're in the 9, 10, 11 minute mark to get an EMS unit at the scene in town. So, you know, that's a real problem. I mean, you may look at some of this and say, well, the difference between 5 minutes and 8 minutes isn't that big. It's only 3, but it's an awful long time I'm not breathing.
Or stroke or
So, you know, it's an issue, and like I said in my letter to you folks, I think it's going to continue to be an issue. I think if we're going to keep creeping up, and I fear that we're going to get to a point where we're not going to be able to handle our business. We're going to be relying on mutual aid an awful lot. So I think we have to get the right people in the room to talk about what we can do to stop planning to rectify the problem. I'm not saying I need 8 guys tomorrow, but I think we need to stop looking at a plan to progressively stop putting people on to cover more hours.
Can I ask a question to the chief? So I think this is really great data. Another, I think, fascinating piece would be as to when the majority of your calls are occurring.
I have that right here.
Oh, okay.
In 2000, well, the long and short of it is the majority of our calls during the day of the week, happen between Monday through Friday. Those are the busiest days of the week. And it will show that. I can certainly send this to you folks if you'd like. In every year, in 15, 16, 17, up to date. Monday through Friday seems to be our busiest days of the week. And in conjunction with that, our busiest time of day seems to be anywhere between 7 o'clock and 6, 7 o'clock at night during the week. That's not to say that we don't use mutual aid on Saturdays and Sundays, because, again, since I've been here, there have been some pretty wild Saturdays and Sundays where we've had mutual aid in town quite often. But I certainly can send this to you folks if you look at the times of day and the days of the week.
The bulk of them are during the day, though?
Correct.
Daylight.
The bulk of them, yes, yeah. It seems to pick up 7 o'clock, you know, when people are there.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a comment to the administrator. Gary, might this be an issue for the Public Safety Committee?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Just want to take any action on this, or just
Yeah,
place on file and wait for
no,
for other information to come in?
I would like to try to schedule a meeting with the administrator, Chief Boss, and the Public Safety Committee to review this and see a direction that we could go to. To me, I get the revenue part of it, but to me the most important part here is response time, saving money.
I think we can all agree that the revenue part of it is not blowing us out of the water. Because what we lose, we do recover some of it. But I would agree with you, Councilor. I think the thing is being able to provide a basic service to the community. You know, I think we're getting dangerously close to not being able to do that consistently. I think
It's more than what we're losing in third-party billing. It's more than what we're losing in third-party billing. That's what we're losing. That's what we're losing the money. It's about our response time and our ability to provide the service.
Exactly.
Which was the information provided tonight, the testimony from the chief. Up to that point, which makes it the numbers. And Chief, thank you for the great detail. I appreciate that.
Certainly, if there's anything else, just email me if there's any specific data that anyone wants. I'm more than happy to try to provide.
And any data that you have, send it to the clerk and she'll send it to us.
Fantastic. I'll send the days of the week and the times during the week as well that I have. I'll send that to you.
So just for redundancy, through the administrator, Aaron, you facilitate that, correct? Can you schedule that? Thank you. Anything else?
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next item. Discussion by council board of action on update of municipal building review task force. We do have a letter from me. On behalf of the task force, I recommend the payment of invoice number 18017-17 dated November 1st, 2019 from Secoshio and Associates in the amount of $1,497.60. This completes the construction administration and closeout portion of the contract. Please note that a balance of $40 is shown as a shortfall in payment of invoice number 18017-14, just transpose two numbers. The 2.5 and 7.95, so there's a $40 shortfall. All work has been verified, a copy of invoice is included. It's the recommendation. Motion to approve. Motion by Mrs. Zelinski, second by Mrs. O'Hara. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Barnoli?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Rozier?
Yes.
Mr. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes. Next item, discussion by council vote or other action on second reading of budget use of renewable energy power generation revenue ordinance. You have a copy of the ordinance. If you do look, there's a second page to this where it does address renewable energy power generation revenue, includes tangible tax revenue from all renewable energy power generation plants, including solar, wind, and geothermal, and budget use of revenue for renewable energy power generation to provide fiscal safeguard regarding the allocation of tangible tax revenue from renewable energy power generation plants starting in fiscal year July 1, 2020. Any tangible tax revenue collected from the renewable energy power generation plants will be permanently transferred into the town capital project fund. This is the second reading. Is there a motion to approve for second reading?
Mr. President, you have to move to amend the document to add those three changes.
So is there a motion to amend the document to include those changes?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bonneville, is there a second? For discussion. Second by Mr. Zelinski, discussion.
Mr. President, I just want to make sure this is the appropriate time through the solicitor. You know, there was a zone overlay that was changed, and I want to make sure that Iron Mine District area was changed to provide revenue to purchase open space. And I want to make sure if we're following general accounting practices. I am not an accountant, but I just want to make sure that any revenue that may come from that GDIM 1 through 9, that revenue is definitely, if it's got to go through the capital budget and then move somewhere else right away for the purchase of open space, parks and recreation facilities, and senior citizen, I just want to make sure that that is going to transpire.
I don't think council action. I don't think
We
there's any.
could transfer that money.
Right. I don't think council action. There's been no council action to date on that issue that I'm aware of. That's only the first one.
Well, we've had a lot of discussion about this. I want to make sure that if we approve this, somehow I want to make it earmarked for the acquisition of open space, parks and recreation facility uses, as well as senior citizens, to make sure that they benefit from this as well. Again, going back, I'm redundant, but that was why we had that solar overlay district developed for that one purpose. And then it kind of morphed into parks and recs into seniors. So how can we make sure that that revenue is, and I am not a finance director, Cindy, help me out here. How do we make sure that that gets to those three areas?
Can I discuss? Unless, I don't want to cut you off. It looks like you're
It's up to you.
Yeah,
When the budget,
Yeah.
the budget process is, when it's budget process time, then that's when we request to put it in those spots.
so that's kind of what I was getting, that's what I was going to get at. So to me, I don't personally like the way that this is written. I think it's a little vague. I'd rather see us follow our budgetary process. And to get to that point, you know, all this has to hit the levy anyways. We don't know how much currently money we're talking about to come in to the budget. I would rather see us create a line item in the revenue accounts per each type of renewable energy. So could we create like a solar revenue line? No?
Then you're separating the levy from
Okay. I'd rather see it all come in anyways and then divvy out through the proper process. Then, so whether that's the Asset Management Commission that has to review and submit to the Budget Committee by the 1st or whatever in April. And then at the end, we go through this process every year to determine how we're going to spend our money. And I would hate to see us pigeonhole ourselves and to say, we've tied up money into a capital project. I'm all for talking about open space. I'm all for talking about senior services, and I'm all for talking about Parks and Rec or any other area. But we have deficiencies in town, and I think we need to evaluate them across the board and say, all right, what makes the most sense? 9 out of 10 times, we're probably going to be talking about open space. I don't think we have enough of it, and I think we're tying money to something that I think is going to create a nightmare down the line. I think we should just follow our process.
My concern and why I put this out there is, if we leave it, I would prefer to see this money go to capital expenditures, whether that be open space, recreational facilities, and those issues through the capital project at a one-time expenses, and to put them in and pay for services and salaries that don't repeat. That was my concern, and that was why I want this isolated into a capital account. That's my thought process.
Mr. President, if I might, I encourage and support this concept. And the parallel that we have parallels currently. We generate revenue in the third-party billing account that was just referenced in the consideration of the EMS calls. Those monies are being diligently managed to make sure that we have adequate funding for fire equipment. Absent them, we would be buying fire trucks and rescues when we have the money. That's the wrong way to do things. We need to buy rescues and fire trucks when we need the rescues and the fire trucks. And we have a predictable system now where we're looking out 15 years using those resources to be certain that we'll be able to buy the equipment that we need, at least in the current quantities, and have the equipment rather than waiting for them to break down and then trying to scurry around figuring out where we're going to find $600,000 or more to be able to buy a fire truck or $300,000 to buy a rescue. It's a very deliberate and predictable circumstance based on those funds being restricted. It was mentioned earlier, the circumstance with the revenue from details. The revenue from details is accounted for separately in our budget, and we are making decisions when to buy cruisers in the capital budget process and making a deliberate decision on where the funding for that cruiser is going to come from. Not all of them come from the detailed revenue account, but when there is revenue in that account, we do fund it from that account. So that account and the account with the third-party billing assures that we will have funds for these mission-critical pieces of equipment. What I think we're looking at here is a similar circumstance where the approximate number that finance has provided to me, is on the order of $420,000 or $30,000 per year, with the proposed, with all of the proposed systems online. Those that have entered the planning process, if they were to make it through to the operating circumstance, we'd be looking at that kind of revenue every year. What that does is assure that our capital budget always has at least that much money. Now, how that money gets spent is a decision of the planning process as well as this council as to what item the money is spent on. It simply assures that there always is money. My observation to this point is that I think that this town has been underspending, deliberately underspending on the capital side by as much as $1 million per year. I think that's going to be evident when we start to look at what comes from the Asset Management Commission. So I strongly encourage this, especially in that it's a circumstance where, as the President has indicated, should any portion of this money go away, it isn't going to be tied up to salaries and benefits and other fixed costs. It will be as it relates to our capital expense. Now, earlier was commented about our roadways. I mean, roadways are funded in the general budget. We're under the Department of Public Works. We have a paving restoration account, and we are building. This council and the council before us, before you, have supported my proposal to build that to a point we have $800,000 per year, because that's what 2 miles of pavement costs. And, you know, we've been criticized for not doing it 1 year. The reason we didn't do it that year is we didn't have a plan. I will not fund anything that is just money in a pile that we don't have a plan for, and that's what we have. And I thank you for the diligence that you provided to that to keep us moving towards that circumstance, that as much as we possibly can every year. I'm hoping this year will be an additional $150,000 to get us back on track from the last budget, or a budget over the past couple of years, when instead of 100 we only added 50. We need to get that up to $800,000 a year, apart from the capital budget. Apart from the capital budget. And that's where I say that we've been underspending by something on the order of $1 million when you look at what we haven't done with roadways. This is a good idea, and I strongly encourage you to support it.
Mr. President, Mr. Zelinski, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Way back long before I was born, but I can remember my dad quoting someone that once said, "Buy land because they ain't making anymore." Fire trucks, police equipment, all that will deteriorate, it will have to be replaced. Open space will not have to be replaced. It's kind of a gift that keeps on giving. Once you have it, it's there. It also provides a couple of other things that the town should be aware of. If that open space is turned into development, which usually means houses, which usually means snow removal, trash pickup, education, all types of responsible first responders, we're losing money on those type of things. Open space saves this town a tremendous amount of money, but it also provides places for people to go and walk, for serenity, the young kids, the young people to go out, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, to go out and actually do stuff in the wild before it's turned into concrete, bituminous. I don't want to start mixing and confusing the need to purchase rescue equipment and police vehicles with the need for open space. Totally separate issues. So I'm a firm believer that open space will define the character of North Smithfield. I moved to North Smithfield because of the rural open space of it. And I see it as being a member of the planning board over the years. I've watched it turn into subdivisions. Yes, I was part of the problem. I moved into a subdivision. Once the open space is gone, it's gone. If you have fire apparatus or police vehicles and they reach their life expectancy, there's always another one being manufactured. Open space is not being made. It was Will Rogers, by the way, that said buy land because they ain't making anymore. I think it's a big. I want to make sure. I mean, because I took the heat as well as I believe Councilor O'Hara, that when we voted to change that zone overlay up there, people in the neighborhoods were upset with us. But was looking for utilitarian use, the betterment of the town, not just a local, not just one spot. And that was going to be offset with usable open space, because the land up there is not quite as conducive for walking on trails. They're heavily developed trails. There are other pieces of property in town which may become available as well. So I'm a big proponent of purchasing open space because of the benefits it gives to the holistic individual, as well as the amount of money that it saves our town.
Any other discussion?
I mean, if the purpose of this is to fund certain things, it's very broad. There's nothing stopping, I mean, this is just going into the town capital projects fund. So there's nothing stopping this from just talking about police or fire or any other type of equipment. And all those services are very valuable. But I've heard a lot, even just tonight, talking about passive recreation, active recreation, open space. How much of this money do we really want to dedicate towards? And even if we can't put it in writing, we should at least know some way of 10% of all solar revenue is going to contribute towards open space. 10% is going to go towards maybe creating sidewalks. 10% is this. I too moved to North Smithfield because of the character of the town, and I too am getting saddened by the fact that we are losing it. And I think that this is, as I've said in the past, I plan on being here for a while, and I want to ensure that we have the same resources today and into the future. And even back in June, when I brought up about an open space committee and trying to tackle the problem, how we fund it, here we are still talking about open space, almost now 6, 7, 8 months later, and we still don't know how to fund certain things. I think that if we're going to really talk about how we want to spend solar revenue, we should have a separate meeting talking about how we want to spend solar revenue instead of just saying it's town capital and that's it, because that is just saying you're going to fund an account without a plan. And I have not heard an active plan up here that is contrary to that. So I don't support this plan the way that this is written, and I think if we're really going to fund capital, we really need to have a plan, not just tomorrow or the next day, but 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years down the line, because that's how long these projects are lasting, and that's how much money is going to be tied up over the long haul.
And we are building that plan. Your Asset Management Commission,
So we should wait until they're done.
they have phenomenal people on it, and they're developing a plan. And we'll have a plan that will be 20, 25, 30 years that we've never had in the past, ever. We've never had that. You're not going to be able